incorporated.
Well, let's bring in Gina Loudon. She's a conservative columnist out in San Diego. Gina, you follow Donald Trump closely. I follow your tweets closely. Are we making a mistake to write him off as just a showman, a loud showman?
We are making a mistake. He is creating a dialogue, Charles, that I have never seen, really, at least in my lifetime, since I was really mentally present in politics. I think people are looking at the people that really don't want Trump in this race, and they're saying, those happen to be the people that I think have been messing up politics for a good long time. I'm going to keep listening to what this guy has to say.
Although, Tammy, Donald said, listen, Hispanics love me, Mexicans love me. I'm going to win that vote. I'm going to win every vote. I mean, listen, we understand, the boisterous attitudes of the world. And by the way, it might be a reflection of America. We kind of rally around the people that talk a lot of smack.
Well, we also love underdogs as well. And when you're out of this system, you're the underdog. But look, honestly, when it comes to the crime and the problems and the violence that is being exacted by some of these illegal criminal aliens, it's affecting that community first. It is the Hispanic community, the undocumented community that is being harmed by America and the establishment not wanting to address it. So Donald Trump has a tremendous opportunity to move beyond just being a disruptor and to really being able to address some serious issues, which we've got to see.
Anyone that waited in line, came here the right way, hates the idea of someone not waiting in line, no matter who they are, taking a job perhaps from them. I want to switch gears just a little bit because I want to talk about perhaps Donald Trump and a third-party run, and maybe if this is just sour grapes. You're looking right now, that's the Washington Post. They said if there were three people, and Donald ran as an independent, he'd come up a little bit short, but so would Jeb Bush, effectively handing the election to Hillary Clinton. Gina, Donald Trump has made this overture more and more in recent days. I know he's frustrated with the media, he's frustrated with fellow Republicans rather, but do you think he would go this far?
I do, frankly. I think that Donald Trump really is here to make a point, and I don't think he's going to stop until he gets it. And I think he's saying to the GOP, hey, this is my leverage. He's a businessman, Charles. He understands how to use the leverage he has. The leverage he has in this situation is that at any moment he can jump ship and take his huge polling numbers with him. That's a big old threat to people like Reince Priebus.
That's a big old threat, but that would be a Pyrrhic victory of all Pyrrhic victories, Don. I mean, it's one of these things to say, I want to, get the GOP to man up, because they don't man up. We got a bunch of, I don't know, but they won't man up. Right. I was going to say something I probably was going to get bleeped for. So here's the thing, Don. Here's the thing. Would he actually pack up his tent? Do you think he would go that far? Because a lot of people don't think he even really wants the job.
Well, we heard this song before in 1992. It was sung by Ross Perot, and that's how Bill Clinton got into the White House against George Herbert Walker Bush. It is not a pathway to victory. Donald Trump's seeing these polling numbers, and these polling numbers are telling him his negatives are too high to secure the Republican nomination. But he's got a solid block of voters, as you see, and so there's a potential to where he could be competitive in a third-party race. But what you're seeing now is that he pulls from the Republican side, and that Hillary Clinton would walk to victory. But I think he does want to be president, and I think he would be an ideal candidate if it weren't for some of this other aspect that he brings to the table. Smart business person.
We're always talking about what he's bringing to the table and his problems. Right. When you look at how the establishment has approached him at this point, Rick Perry calling him a cancer, crazies, attacking the GOP establishment, attacking not just Trump, but the base. Rick Wilson in Politico effectively calling everyone clowns. This is not the way to try to keep everybody enthused and with you. You're pushing not just Donald Trump away, but the voters as well.
Do you think he should take his ball and go away then, because all the kids won't play nice?
No, look, this is what politics should be about, is everyone coming together, talking about, everybody wants the same thing, the country to get back on her feet. And that you don't do it this way. So these are grown men and women getting together. What I've seen from the establishment concerns me a lot. As they point a finger at Donald Trump about being a problem, they're creating the larger problem. Donald Trump must realize, but, ego is involved here as well. And that's what concerns me.
And Gina, I think that that's what a lot of people are saying. There is certainly a fine line there, but there's no doubt, to your earlier point, he is galvanized. He is awoken something that, I got to be honest with you, I saw at the beginning of the Tea Party, and in my opinion, I think the Tea Party got off the grass too early. I thought they should have stayed there and stayed grassroots instead of becoming a quasi-political party. Having said that, though, he's reignited this niche of the Republican base. Would they even be likely to vote for anybody else?
It remains to be seen. There's a long time left. And yes, he has some negatives, but he has plenty of time, plenty of money, plenty of an ability to get free media. He's obviously the expert on that. Can you name another person's slogan? We all know his, Making America Great Again. America wants jobs, Charles. They believe he can create those. He puts on a hat, goes out on the border and demonstrates that, and America is eating this up. They're cheering at their televisions for the first time in a long time.
But he's a liberal, and people have to, he said, even in 2004,
Donald Trump is a liberal.
In 2004, he was asked by another network how he identified. He says, I identify more as a Democrat.
Well,
he's giving most of his money to Democrats.
He's giving money to Democrats. He's okay with same-sex marriages and things like that. You know, and that brings me to another topic that I think is interesting, because today we heard that in Congress the GOP wants to limit the amount of money that airlines can charge for baggage fees. That's not free market stuff, right? It's certainly anti-business, and they've been saying that more and more. Then you take a look at the next issue of Time magazine. A Bush and a Clinton is the 100th time one of those names have appeared on the cover of this magazine. And people are saying, is there really any difference anymore between the parties, Gina? That's what's frustrating Americans. They don't even see a difference anymore.
And they don't like labels anymore, Charles. I don't think people care what he called himself in the past. A lot of people that I know that have been loyal Republicans for a long time hesitate to even use the word anymore. I also see Democrats of all colors, by the way, very supportive, at least of the fact that of what Trump has added to this dynamic. I don't know many people that are ready to say, he's my man for president. There are some, but I don't know many. But I don't think that you can discount what the American people, black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, they are loving what he is adding to the conversation.
Don, I want to ask you, I mean, it's pretty clear that the American public is frustrating. You talk about Bernie Sanders, these huge crowds, his poll numbers, you talk about Donald Trump, and just the feeling that, you know, we feel as a people sort of something's happened that detached America from Washington, D.C.
Well, I think Americans feel they've been conned by politicians over the years. The politicians say one thing and do something else. I think Americans see that the political process is broken, that the country is taking steps backwards, not forwards. And so I think they look at a Donald Trump who's willing to speak his mind. He's not afraid. He does know how to run businesses. He's been successful at that. He's certainly willing to express the frustration that Americans have. And we're looking for solutions. The country's looking for a solution. And I agree with Gina. No labels. I think that Donald Trump, for example, would resonate with African-American voters.
I want to talk about that later. I want to get into that topic in deeper because there's a rap record that Donald didn't like a couple years ago. He loves it now. But to me, it underscores the idea that he could win a lot of votes that people might have written off for him. But I want to ask you on this, Tammy. The so-called fringes seem like, I think more young people, millennials, identify themselves as independent than Democrat or Republican. This is more than just a fad. This is a frustration from older voters, as Don pointed out, years of pulling the lever and not getting what they were promised, and younger people just completely disillusioned.
Look, don't mistake independent for not knowing where you stand or for ambivalence, right? These are people who really feel strongly about conservatism or liberalism. The problem with the establishment is they're simply managers of the monster now. They have a similar interest, which is maintaining the monster that feeds them. This is what the problem is with the Bush dynasty or a Clinton dynasty and all the same people all the time. Americans want people in there who really are going to change things, who are going to make government smaller, who are going to respect our privacy, who are going to create jobs by ending regulations, by allowing the free market and capitalism to succeed. That's what independence means these days. It's a conservative independence, and there is no real distinction in Washington now with the two. They use it as theater, but it really does exist for the people.
Well, then let me ask you, Gina, is it possible then for a so-called independent, conservative independent or otherwise, to be elected, since special interests have such deep pockets, so much pull, so much sway? Listen, we know that there's an appetite for it, but could it actually happen?
If you mean, could an independent win the nomination? Is that what you're asking?
And actually be elected to the White House?
I'm not a third-party confident person, but I will say, if anyone's going to shake up what I previously thought politics looked like, it would be Donald Trump. He is surprising me every time I start to think that we're going to get sick of him, I find myself cheering at my television again. So I don't even know how to predict this. I don't know how to answer you on that, Charles.
Although we will say, back to Trump for a second, you know, in Laredo, when the media started asking him questions, by the way, you know, he's a master at handling them. them, but he also didn't answer a lot of questions that ultimately, you know, someone said, okay, you build the wall. What about the 11 illegals that are already here? He says, well, let's build the wall and talk about that later. Some of these things, I think, ultimately, beyond the passion, beyond the emotional aspects of this, Gina, at some point he may have to start putting some finer points to these ideas.
Yeah, you remember the last guy that ran on big ideas? Just think about that for a second. Ronald Reagan ran on big ideas. Everyone accused him of not talking about the finer points of his ideas, and he said, hey, I have priorities. This is what we need to do first. That's pretty much what I heard out of Donald Trump today. First, we have to build this wall. We'll figure out how to feed the wildlife. We'll figure out what that looks like, but that has to happen before we can even worry about the rest of it. And I think people just love that sort of leadership, Charles, that says, this is what I want to do. Let's start with this. At least it's something.
Real quick, yeah. Don, you think broad strokes can take him all the way to the White House, or anyone all the way to the White House?
I think Ronald Reagan approached it a bit differently. He was aspirational. He was talking about how a great America could be. He wasn't as antagonistic. He was big, broad strokes. I think broad strokes can take you a distance, but arrogance and mean-spiritedness will come up and bite you later.
Although Donald Trump would say it's not arrogance and mean-spiritedness, it's just that he's a man and he wants to grab the handle, grab this country by the scruff of its neck, shake it up, particularly the Republicans, and make them stand up again like they used to.
We had that in 12 with Obama about emotions. We don't want to repeat the same problem.
Hey, it could get you elected. Hey, by the way, coming up, we're going to get back to what Don was talking about, the race for 2016.